Alright guys, how you doing? I hope everybody's doing well in lockdown. I understand it's going to be pretty challenging for some people, but I'm going to tell you one of the things that's keeping me going through this. It's, as I said in my last video, I think it's a wonderful opportunity. It's an unusual opportunity where we get to really sit down and have a think. So the topic today is going to be taking control of your life, and where is your life going? It's quite difficult to know what direction our life's heading in sometimes, but if we want to have a bit of insight and a bit of idea about where it's going, we need to become conscious. So we need to actually understand why we're doing what we're doing in the present moment, and the desires that are underneath that, motivating those things, to have a bit of an idea whether we're going in a desirable direction or in a direction that's going to lead us off the tracks. So what dominates your consciousness, and what is it that you focus on most of the time? So I'll just use an example of when I was I still am a recovering drug addict, but when I was a fully fledged using drug addict, all I thought about all the time was ketamine. That was my drug of choice. That was the one that had complete power over me, and I had just absolutely no control of my life whatsoever. All that I thought about all day long was doing this, and essentially I wanted to feel good, because I didn't feel good. I realised that life was quite difficult and didn't really meet the expectations that I had with it, and I realised that when I did this thing, it actually alleviated that. It sort of got me out of my mind. It sort of dumbed down my senses, and I didn't have to deal with what was going on out there. So essentially my highest desire was to be liberated from consciousness. I actually wanted to not know what was going on. I wanted to be in another world, more or less. So every single thing every interaction that I dealt with throughout my day was to do with either doing this, getting out of my head out of my mind on drugs, or getting drugs, or what was going to more or less make me feel better all the time. This is actually the consciousness that 99% of people are in, is how does what's around them, how is it going to benefit them and make them feel better most of the time. The problem with this is that it is completely self-centered. I was the center of that equation. I didn't consider how other people were feeling, and if anything got in the way of me extracting happiness out of what it is that I wanted, it became a real problem. I'd become frustrated and angry, and it was just really became a miserable existence for myself and everybody else around me. That's the general nature of an addiction, and we all suffer from these things from on like a spectrum of like a mild to really extreme. Most people, if you ask people what their life goal is, it'll be trying to achieve something like financial riches, or saving up to buy a house, or finding the so-called love, or finding the perfect partner. And underneath all these things, is we'll find most of the time is that the dream that's being sold here is that when they achieve or get this material thing, that's actually going to fulfill them and make them feel happy. When we actually I found out in my own life that every time I've chased this thing and actually ended up succeeding and getting that, no matter what it was, it didn't fulfill me, and I felt equally as empty. And actually in some cases I felt worse, because once I'd achieved that, I had nothing else to strive for. Now, it wasn't until I stumbled upon spiritual philosophy where they actually explained the condition of the soul is to love and be loved, which makes a lot of sense, because a lot of what we strive for, whether it be power or fame or riches, actually underneath that we have the belief that once we achieve those things, that people are going to like us more, people are going to love us. When we have a good body, or the right job, or the right amount of money, or these things, I think that people will actually like us more. Now, quite often we find that through the behaviour the way we conduct ourselves in getting these things, it actually achieves the opposite effect, because self-centered behaviour is actually quite undesirable to people. So once I found out that being of service to other people is actually the answer, started to explore that through doing this. To be honest, this has been my salvation, and me giving to you as much as I can without expecting anything in the return. I actually tapped into a source of joy and happiness that I hadn't experienced since I was a kid. Without drugs, I hadn't felt joyful for as long as I can remember, and especially once quitting drugs, it became like almost impossible to feel happy without that, because the high that you experience when you use drugs is so profound, not profound, but it's so intense that it's really hard to match that on any other level. And I thought that there was no other way. So my consciousness, even after I was away from drugs, was still just thinking about doing drugs, because every time I have a problem, my mind goes, I know how to fix that. In the short term, it's like, okay, well, I want to do some drugs, and it's like, well, I can't, because I've moved to the other side of the world, and it's really, really difficult to get it, which was like a really bloody wise tactical decision on that part, because that saved me. And if I'd been able to get it, I wouldn't have stopped. But it was only once I found this ability, had made this decision to serve other people, and had actually received the benefit of actually feeling the joy of doing that. I just couldn't believe the way that it made me feel. And through finding my purpose through doing these things, every time I feel like start spinning out, become neurotic, or just start to struggle mentally, I just shift my consciousness away from the self-centered consciousness, and actually start thinking about what I can do for other people again. And when I focus on how I can actually make the world a better place, I'm not thinking about all this negative stuff. I'm not thinking about the way I look and not being happy with the way I look, or not having enough money, or not being enough, or feeling valuable enough, or certainly not focusing on drugs anymore, which has always been the hardest thing for me. So actually, through helping other people, it's been my salvation as well, even though it's not the goal. So many people, including myself, when I was sort of like feeling really ashamed of being a drug addict or any other things, put all my focus into not wanting to be that. And through not wanting to be that thing, that just remained in my consciousness, and I'd just ruminate. I'd just go round and round, just this spiral of self-pity and self-hate. Finding this out has completely changed my life, and this is how I try to live my life now. Every time I'm suffering, I know that it's my own fault. I know that I'm suffering exactly because of what I want, and I know that when I'm suffering, I'm being self-centered. There is an equation to happiness. Through being self-centered, you suffer. Through trying to serve others, you can tap into an unlimited amount of joy. And through surrendering our selfish desires, that is the only way that we can actually do that, and letting go of trying to control things. The more we try to control things, the more we try to fight for our own liberation and our own happiness. Trying to take happiness from things, we suffer for it completely. It brings me a tremendous amount of joy to be a part of this service. I'll continue trying to do my best to educate and bring the best knowledge that I can surrounding mental health and addiction, suicide, and all the other things that have impacted my life in a really heavy way. So I'm going to continue to do the best, and I really hope that you can think about this during this time, and think about what it is that you can contribute to this world, because we're all so individual and we're all unique. Every single one of us has something to give that the other one doesn't. So have a sit down, have a good think about what it is that you can do, because I guarantee that there's something special that you can give. Alright guys, break the chain. See you soon.